Um, my idea is to help you understand how much of learning lives in our language. If we actually listen to people and if we listen to them well, you could see how much we could learn from them. Obviously, this session is focused on accident investigations, but there is no way you cannot learn from other things, um, even from your children, if you were to listen to them well. I find a very, very strong connection between um, how we speak, what we speak, and what it tells us about decision making, how we make decisions. So, what we're going to talk about in the next 1 hour is the relationship between language and decision making. How can our language inform the quality of our decisions and improve the quality of our decisions if we were to listen to people with intent? This is not a lecture. We will do an exercise as well, and I will explain to you what that exercise is about in a few minutes. But it is really to give you a feel for how much of our language actually informs our decision making. So, language and decision making, that's what we're going to talk about. For those who have just joined, I would suggest please just turn on your cameras if you can. It feels a lot more personal. And we are going to do a group exercise, and you will need to turn on the cameras for that in small little groups. So here's what I would like to propose. I will share with you a framework that will help you, that will get you going in the next 1 hour on how to listen well. Now, how long it takes to master depends upon entirely upon you, how well you practice, how well you take it into your everyday work, because all learning is practice oriented. You cannot learn from lectures, you cannot learn from assessments. You can only learn through feeling and experiencing. That's the only way people actually unlearn and learn. When we come, when we do it experientially, that's how it becomes part of our body. So it's not cognitive anymore, it becomes part of us. And that's successful learning. So I will introduce a framework, and then we give you the opportunity to get going. Obviously, there's a lot to it, but that framework should get you going in the first place. So I'm going to share a screen with you, and then explain to you what I would expect from this exercise. So um, here is the framework, and um, what you see is that when we speak, when we hear, when we listen, when we write,
Cool.
review, there are three layers in our language. The first layer in our language is the language of the workspace. This is the physical language that we speak.
This also can
Please, can you go mute? It's a little, yeah. So when we speak in three layers of language. The first layer is the physical layer. What do I mean by that? What I really mean by that is this is the language that can be sensed through our senses. We can somehow make it tangible, whether it's by seeing it, by hearing it, by touching it, tasting it, smelling it. So, for example, I'm sitting in this room, and if somebody lit a cigarette, I can actually smell it. And I'm sitting right in front of the computer. When I look outside the window, I can see trees, I can see clouds, I can see the sky, I can see many things. And what I'm trying to say is that I can name these things. And as long as you can name things, we believe that we have a sense of control over them. So this is the physical language that we speak. And if you go into the risk and safety world, what you see is that our language is absolutely full of this workspace language. Our words are full of this workspace language. And there's a good reason for that. And the reason for that is this, that it gives us a sense of control. That when you can name something with confidence, you believe that you can control, and you can also create a common understanding. So for example, if I tell you, if I show you that, in this room I have a cabinet right at the back, you probably might call it something different, but we can come to a common understanding in a few minutes. So, and this is also the language of what the icon actually indicates, which is the rubric. Uh, the rubric is meant for a reason. The rubric means that you can actually solve problems. So this is the language that gives us a sense of solving problems. Because you can name the problem, you can actually solve it now. And this also gives us the feeling of control. So you can solve a problem because you can understand the problem. And in the risk and safety world, if you look at your past audit reports, investigation reports, management reviews, technical defects, we love this language. We are so full of this language. So this is the first layer of language. The second layer of the language is the headspace language. This is a language that can tell us something about the state of mind of people. So, for example, you have just entered into this space 5 minutes ago. Some of you are curious. Some of you are still watching. Some of you are probably even upset for something, some reason. Some of you are feeling very positive. So these are all states of mind. As I look at you, you could probably say, what's your state of mind at the moment? And this is the language that can tell us something about the emotions and the feelings of people. And this language can tell us something about how people make decisions. So if you see something and you're surprised, that means you're going to act upon it. If you see something and nothing moves you, you probably won't do anything about it. So this language it tells us something about the state of mind of people, which is the basis of a lot of decisions that we make. Now, there is a third kind of language, which is the language of the group space. This is the third layer of language, and this language can tell us something about how we relate to other people within social groups. So a lot of times, for example, uh, people don't even realize when they give you this language. I go into the offices and people say, "Well, we've been trying very hard to tell them, but they don't listen." You know, and we and them. You already can hear subcultures or subgroups within an office space. Yeah, the guys at the top don't listen. The guys at the bottom don't move. Um, um, so this if you listen carefully, what you can see is how one group relates with another group, right? Um, Sometimes you go on a site and you ask someone what's going on here, and they might say to you, well, this is quite normal here. That is also a very interesting expression, because what that tells you is that what might come as a surprise to you is quite normal within this subgroup or this subculture. Sometimes people might throw some metaphors at you. um, their understanding of, for example, time, as Mark started this conversation in this webinar, that in certain parts of the world, time has a very different meaning than what it has in other parts of the world. So people turn up for a seminar which is scheduled to be at 3 o'clock at 10 minutes past 3. And that's quite acceptable in certain parts of the world. No one challenges that. And the point is that when you listen to the metaphors, when you listen to subcultures, you can try and understand how one group relates with another group, how one culture relates to another culture. And when you are able to listen to these different layers in the language, you are much better informed about how decisions are made, how people make decisions. So I'll just give you some examples of the language in these three layers. This is by no means a catalog, but it helps you to understand, gives you some understanding of what I'm talking about here. So one is this. This is the primary or the physical language, which is very important actually in many ways. These are some examples. I'm not going to read them out, but you can see the examples here. And you can see that a lot of this language has to do with measurement and management and control. right? Even some might think that what has behaviorist reward system got to do with measurement? It is quite literally a very measurement oriented language. It's really measuring the idea of measuring human behavior through and through measurement trying to manipulate it through carrot and sticks, right? We then go into a secondary language, and these are the examples of the secondary language. So somebody is satisfied, somebody feels encouraged, someone is ignoring you, somebody is confused, uh, job secure, someone is feeling secure, positive. Learning is an interesting one. Learning is a very personal thing. What you take away from this exercise might be completely different from what somebody else takes it from here. So learning is a very individual thing. Creativity, success. So it's a language that deals with feelings and emotions, right? And then there is a third kind of language, which is the language of can tell us something about relationships at play. So this language can tell us something about how people relate to each other within any organization, any context whatsoever. So these were the three kinds of languages that people speak in workspace, in headspace, and group space. Um, and if you can listen carefully in a conversation, how people are speaking, and you can segregate between the three, you can draw so much more from how they make decisions. Now, I've already given you an overview. My suggestion is that please do not accept anyone in this room anymore, because it will be pointless. They won't be able to do the exercise. So Robert and Mark, please don't accept anyone, because they'll have difficulties now to follow through, and it will create confusion. So what I'm going to now do is put you into small groups and do a group exercise. That group exercise would mean that you'll have a conversation. So there will be three people in every group. One person will be talking, the second person will be listening, and the third person will be observing the conversation between the one who's talking and the one who's listening. If you do not have a pen and a paper, please grab one. You will need that for this exercise. You will need some kind of thing to note. Doesn't matter if it's a small notebook, big notebook, doesn't matter. You need for this exercise, you'll need a pen and a paper for this exercise. So please just grab one pen and a paper if you don't have one. And I'm going to put you through an exercise. So there will be three people in every group. One will be talking, one will be listening, and one will be observing. Now, what are we going to talk about? The one who's talking can actually share any story. Doesn't really matter. You can share a story from 20 years ago, from yesterday, from this morning. And if you're struggling to come up with a story, and you really are enthusiastic about safety, then you can talk about this particular example. So this is you as a maintenance worker who's using an angle grinder without the required guard and side handle. That's it. And you can talk about it if you like. Or you can talk about anything you want to as the one who's talking in a group of three. The one who's listening is going to listen, and if required, ask a question, right? Try not to, but if you have to, here are some questions you might want to ask, some of them. The commonality across these questions is this, that you're not trying to control the other person. Look at these questions carefully. These questions are meant to open up the discussion. You're not trying to control the person. You just allow them to tell the story. Does it make sense? Here's one who's talking, here's the one who's listening. And the job of the listener is just to allow the one who's talking to talk. And you just listen. Simply listen to them. And if required, ask a question or two, but try not to. Let them speak. And this exercise will run for about 3 to 4 minutes. So do not try to interrupt or control. If needed, ask an open question, such as the ones here. Now we come to the observer, the third person in the group will simply be observing and mapping this conversation in three layers of the risk that we mentioned. How will you do that? Let me show this to you. Right? So if you have a pen and a paper, what I'd like you to do is just draw 4 quadrants. Right? The top 2 quadrants will be for the physical language. The bottom left quadrant will be for the psychological language that people speak, which is I'm confused, I've lost my way, I'm feeling very positive, I would like to know more, and stuff like that. And then there is the language on the bottom right. And this is the language of the cultural expressions that people give us that can tell us something about how they relate with each other. Certain metaphors fall beautifully well in this category. Some people use some they're full of metaphors, poetics and metaphors. They're just full of it. So try and put that language on the bottom right hand side, right? And there are many, many steps to this, but I'd just like you to just map the language. The observer will not say anything. The observer will just map the conversation. That's all they will do. Any questions from anyone?
Understood.
Yes. Quick question. Are you going to assign the parts of the talker, the listener, and the observer?
Sorry, Kim, can you please repeat that?
Yes. Well, when we break out into groups, will you be assigning the talker, listener, or do we just choose among ourselves?
I think it's best if I leave that to you. It's more organic, more spontaneous. You decide whatever works for you, and just go with the flow. Whosoever is happy taking whichever role. Sometimes people are dying to tell a story. Why not? Let them talk. Who are we to control that? Yes. Okay. So I'll leave that to all of you. So there are 21 people in the group, and I will split you into 10 groups, which means there will be 3 people in every group. One group might have more than 3 people, just one group. And in that group, if you end up with 4 people, then your job is to make 2 people as observers. But there will always be only one listener and one speaker. So there we go. Peter has already left. He's decided he's not going. He's had enough of us. So that's fine, Peter. You can go. You're liberated. All right. So I'm going to now send you into groups. And before I do that, if possible, please turn on your cameras. Because the quality of conversation makes a huge difference when people can see each other. But I'm not going to control that. It's entirely up to you. I've said that a few times now. So there will be 3 participants, I think, in every group. And I will pull you back. I know it sounds very harsh. I will pull you back in about 3 to 4 minutes, if that's okay with everyone. Yeah, off you go. Some smiling faces, so looks like you've managed to have a little conversation. Okay, I don't know who would even like to start. I'm quite easy, but um, I think it would be a good idea for the observers to come forward and reflect on what was their experience. What did they what I'm not so interested in how well you map the words. My question to you is this: that how was your experience of listening?
I'll jump in. Thanks. It's Kim. I found that the the storyteller wanted to go very much to the physical details and the concrete. And my listener in my room, Phallus, was really probing and pulling out uh, questions around feelings, around more of the nuances, and that was helpful. So it really did require somebody intentionally drawing out these other aspects of what was going on in the event to get to that quality of data. So I just want to say thanks to the team.
Yeah, Kimberly, can you tell me who was pairing with you in this
I was
session?
Yeah, I was with Luis and Thales. And Thales, if I pronounced it wrong, please forgive me. From Brazil,
So
right?
there was there
Cool.
was there was Talis, you said, and there was Sushil, you said, right?
Luis,
Luis,
Yep,
okay, okay.
Luis.
Okay, so here's the thing, Emily, that always fascinates me. So what you have just experienced is something like this. Can everyone please go mute? It's so much more better. Uh, so when there are two people, they are speaking, or they're having a conversation. All conversation happens in an unconscious mode. I'll repeat that. All conversation happens in an unconscious mode. And the point I'm trying to make is this, that nobody comes with a script when they have to have a free conversation between them. So here are two people. Speech is unconscious. Speech is a totally unconscious thing. Nobody rehearses. Of course, people rehearse, but that's not what happened here. There are two people who come to a conversation without thinking about it. So here we have two people in an unconscious mode, and the observer is in the conscious mode, right? So the observer is making the unconscious conscious, which is learning, right? That's the first part of it. That the role of a good observer is to make the unconscious conscious. So what I hear, sorry, I'll just mute you, sir. Yeah. Um, so the observer is making the unconscious conscious. And what's interesting, what we just saw is that there's one person who's very literal. He's very literal. He loves to stay in this space. Yeah, and if I dig a little bit deeper, he probably is a risk or safety manager for sure, because that's a profession that loves to be in this place because it really feels in control then, right? Some of the leaders, they call themselves leaders, but they are micromanagers because they never come down from here. And so interesting that you can be living in this literal space and calling yourself a leader. That's fascinating, isn't it? But never mind. So here's we have, and there's nothing wrong with it. There are different personality types. There's not one better than the other, but it's important to understand what's your temperament, what's your orientation in life. So here's somebody who's literal, and then here's somebody else who, on the other side, who is poetic, who's metaphorical, who loves feelings, who wants to be in peace and harmony with everyone, cannot upset people at all, right? And there are these two people talking at each other. You think about it, somebody involved in an accident who is very oriented towards feelings and emotions and being questioned, the first question you ask is, why did you not follow the procedure? You already lost this person completely. He's not listening to you. He's in trauma, actually. He's in complete trauma because of the way you approach this person, because you don't understand his temperament, you don't understand his type, right? That's the first thing that we learn. The second thing that we learn is, what is it that Kimberly took away from this conversation? And that is equally fascinating because it doesn't matter what these two people have been talking. What is it that the investigator writes down? Where is it that the investigator finds meaning in this conversation? And that is your accident investigation report. We tend to think about an accident investigation report as some objective exercise. Well, it is not. It is not. It is somebody's story. It is somebody's narrative. You can have all the facts and evidences in the world, but you will produce a story that gives you meaning, the investigator. So you can see in this 3 minutes conversation, a lot has happened already. And this is why, and there's nothing wrong with it. All we are trying to do is we're trying to make the unconscious conscious. We've been doing it for so long, but we do not realize that we are doing it in unconscious mode. And all we are doing is by putting it on a piece of paper or a whiteboard, we are making the unconscious conscious. So that when 5 people look at this whiteboard and they can see the words being mapped, they can see how their decisions, how the verbal has become visual. Do you see my point? We're just trying to make the verbal visual because the verbal is unconscious, but the moment you make it visual, it becomes conscious.
amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was the first group. Now let's listen to another group and see what they have brought to the surface. the observer. Yes, Robert.
So in my group, I had, you want me to name my partners?
Please, please, why not? Yeah.
It was Sanjay, Sudan, and Sushil. So I was the observer and I heard the talker tell an actual incident that had happened. And similar to Kimberly's experience, the talker was full of the physical language, a lot of facts and dates and figures and descriptions of the event that happened right from the beginning till the very end. And the top two quadrants were full of what I had observed the talker sharing in the incident that he shared. And one thing stood out, that the talker referred to a particular nationality, while the incident that had happened composed of 5 people. The talker kept referring to 2 people and their nationality alone. I don't know if you was aware of that, but this was something that caught my attention and made me wonder why. So yeah, this was my experience of being an observer in the group.
Fascinating. Did you realize you used the word nationality at least thrice? Or maybe more than once at least. I know for sure you did that more than
Yes.
once. And my point is this, that when somebody repeats a particular expression or they come back to the same metaphor in a different way, and you said that 2 people and 5 people, their unconscious is trying to spurt something out. And we're not listening. I had a very interesting case a week ago in India. I was doing a similar workshop. There was this ship captain within a group of many, many people. He was pulled in last minute. He was on leave and he was just literally forced into the meeting to make for the numbers. I don't know why. And he narrated his frustration, and in his little story that lasted for less than 3 minutes, Robert, he would have used the word communication loop about a dozen times. And you only have to ask the question, tell me a little bit more about communication loop, or tell me why this expression nationality means something to you. Because it's not what they said, Robert, it's what you thought was important for reasons that are only known to you. Now, you take this bias and put this in a report. Very valid, there's nothing wrong with it. My point is that now you're doing it consciously. Repetition of words or certain metaphors is so important in listening, because somebody is trying to tell you something unconsciously without even being aware of it. And all you have to do is tell me a little bit more about that particular word, and it all comes out. The entire story, the story is something else. It is much, much deeper than that. And it comes out. So repetition is really, really important in listening. What words are being repeated? What metaphors are being repeated? Yes.
Thanks for the learning.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I can be the next one.
Please
I was
do.
the
Please do. Yeah.
I was the observing, which was quite difficult for me, but I was in the NQ and David group. David was the one that telling the history, and I identified that he was very good in classifying the facts of the history, in giving the context, physical context, psychological context, and cultural context as well. For me, this is my only perspective. It was more like our well-known path when we are investigating things. We do this kind of checklist, and on the other hand, NQ also was bringing that description for her environmental, something that was familiar to her. So at some point, discussion was more about, for example, the toolbox talk and what is common to see in those things. And this was a common fact between them, if you know what I mean. So it's like as good knowing the answer. And yeah, I think the conversation was more about that. It was quite interesting. I feel like we are in the same page. So
It felt like you're on the same page, you said.
yes, I recognize myself on their speech on what in their conversation. It make me think like because sometimes, as I said, we are more like doing the checklist because it's more comfortable for us to know what is going on. Then we end up with, let's say, a root cause because it was about the incident, right? It's better knowing something and talking about something, explore more one aspect, than to end up with, let's say, a cause that we don't know how to deal with. That was something. It's a lot of layers, as you said. Probably I was put myself conscious in the conversation as well. I was observing this from this view, let's say.
Great, great. Thank you, Kisley. There's a lot in what you said. What the template does is it gives you a certain discipline to listen until you are a good listener. So unlike many other methods that make you a slave of the tool or the method, the idea of using a method like this is that it liberates you from tools and methods. You only need to use it for a little while, and after a while you are liberated because you can listen and you can ask open questions. So the idea is not to make you a slave of the method, but to liberate you and make you a good listener, and how to listen when people are speaking, because that has everything to do with how people make decisions. 98% of our decisions are made in the unconscious mode, and how good it is to be able to catch the right words, because the real story lies there in those words. Yeah, yeah. So you start with a structure, but after a while you throw it away. You don't need it anymore because you can listen. Yes, yes. But great. Thank you, Casey, for sharing your reflections, yes, or thoughts. Yes, sir. Anyone else? Would any other? Yes, yes, Dhruv, please, please.
Yeah, hi. So I was along with Sean and my friend from Congo. I think I'm unable to pronounce his name properly. I think it was Twaza or something. So the interesting part was Sean was the speaker and I was the observer trying to make notes. And Sean was talking about a workshop which was trying to hold, and what were the expectations from the workshop, the learnings. Then his friend, who's the supervisor, who he knows for a while, actually stepped in and spoke to the participants, saying that how it is important is to open up to Sean and give all the perspectives. And then when people started talking, they spoke about how people in other teams have got recognized and rewarded and things like that. So actually, while making notes, I realized that the way you went about talking about the physical, psychological, and cultural aspects, the entire thing which Sean spoke about, whatever extent I was able to manage to categorize them, and that was very interesting. And as human beings, first thing, it's very important that when we are setting up a workshop or a training session or an investigation, to make people comfortable. Okay, then what are, and also to appreciate their cultural aspects, because culturally there are a lot of things people like to talk about, people don't like to talk about. And a lot of cultures, people assume things. Okay, and sometimes as investigators we also end up suffering with that, right? And till the time when you start speaking and culturally they open up with the correct intent, not the intent that result oriented. If I say this, this might happen to my license or the approval, rather than just have a general conversation. Then comes the formal part, the physical talking and all. So how you set the tone and the official manner which is there. And I fully agree with you that probably the learning over the years has been that in investigation, if we make people comfortable, not talk about that event, have a conversation and let that individual come to that comfortable stage to start talking and trusting you to talk. and he or she understands that finally, whatever is the outcome, it will be based on a just and a fair culture, which sometimes is very easily said or put on paper, but implemented in a very different way. So those are my thoughts, and maybe Sean and my friend from Congo would like to add. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. And what was the strongest word that Dhruv gave us? Were you listening to him when he was talking? What was that one strong word that he offered us all? It was a gift from Dhruv.
Environment?
No, no, no.
You're fine. Go on. Just culture.
No, no, that's too boring. He used the word suffering. Did you hear that? Did anyone hear that word, suffering? Dhruv, did you recognize that?
Well, now when you actually repeated it, then it is hitting me that yes, I did use this word. And sometimes you feel bad for people who are going through that experience, you know. So, and sometimes you learn it because you yourself have gone through an experience like that. And you promise to yourself that you'll never make somebody else suffer.
Absolutely. Good listening is very cathartic actually to the other person. And one of the things I realized in an accident investigation is that the that people actually feel people feel comfortable um, only when they are being listened to, and they can sense it. It doesn't matter whether you are doing it online or in person. If you're genuinely interested in people, you're actually helping them overcome that suffering, in particularly in accidents. And it's so interesting that you can reconcile suffering and learning, or healing and learning, just by listening. Doesn't happen very often. You can reconcile healing and learning both through listening.
So,
There
so
are people.
Nipun, do you think it's a good idea that while doing the investigation, especially the so-called discussion or interview, whatever you wish to call, that 80% of the talking should be done by that individual and 20% by the investigators, or maybe something to that ratio?
I don't know about the percentage, but Dhruv, I wrote a book. It's called "Are We Learning from Accidents?" based on the story of the Costa Concordia, where the captain spoke for 12 hours. And I don't think I spoke for more than 3 or 4 minutes. I just asked him, "Where would you like to start?" And he just continued. He just kept going. And I see that all the time. You
Great.
see, the
And
thing, Dhruv, what you mentioned was very interesting, which is this, that we live in a world of technique and efficiency. Efficiency is the god of I think it's our god. We have accepted it as a god. If it's not faster, better, cheaper, I'm not listening. I'm not even interested in you. But I can tell you this one thing: the moment you step out of it, or you recognize yourself into this, there is an awful lot of learning and relationship building the moment you come out of it. It shouldn't surprise us that all the good stuff and the best business decisions actually happen over dinner, or in a cafe or a pub. They don't happen in meeting rooms. And the reason for that is people are a lot more relaxed. And the moment you come out of this world of efficiency and technique, you can actually build relationships with people. And you're fighting because you're not listening to the other person. You just want to control the other person. You want to stay here. You don't want to come down. You're fighting in this space. There's a problem. Well, what's the solution? This is the problem. What is the solution? Well, you first need to connect with people. You first need to understand their frustrations and why they don't get along with their bosses, right? It's all there, but we're not listening. So it's only when we come down in this quadrant, it looks like a very simple exercise, but it's so profound. You can spend your life just doing this bit. It is so powerful. So you have to let go of this mindset that within the next 1 hour, I have to extract information from this person. It's such a naive language. You have to be in the moment. You have to listen to their frustrations. You have to build the relationship. And sometimes it doesn't take more than 10 minutes for them to tell you what the issue is. But then we have no time for that because we have to fix the problem before we go to bed. And we just ruin everything.
Probably some crucial points which can be brought out into the investigation is completely lost. It just remains in that person's heart. He never is going to talk about it.
You said it in your own words, though. It is in his heart, yes. And that's where all the trauma lives. All the trauma lives in the body because nobody's listening. So you end up traumatizing that person who's already traumatized from the accident. And that's why, when I put that post out there, when I set up this program, I've heard it so many times, people saying that the experience of the accident was not so bad. The experience of the accident investigation is what was the most traumatic part of this experience, because we don't know how to ask questions. We all start from here. You tell me one, if we did an exercise on framing questions, people cannot think beyond this. They cannot. Right? I'm conscious of the time. We're just about wrapping up. But does anyone have a burning question before I just bring it all together? Or a comment?
Kimberly has raised the question. Just check.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not very good with. Actually, Kimberly, I don't think it's. Um, I don't think there's an expectation from the investigator to fix any problems. At the most, an investigator can make recommendations, but their job is not to fix a problem. I think we have assumed too much on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Even the law does not expect us to come up with fixes. Um,
And Nitin, at this
Makes
point,
sense
can
to
I
me
add
too.
something?
sorry.
Nitin, this is Rubia. Can I add something at this point?
Yes, please do. Yes.
Interestingly, in the recent past, I've seen that Australian Transportation Safety Board has moved away from the concept of probable cause. They are now investigating and only coming up with contributory factors, which actually makes no sense, because the moment we get probable cause, everybody starts to look at that individual. Unfortunately, the law is that way,
Yeah.
So the fact is that the moment we keep it as contributory factor, it's a system rather than an individual.
Yeah.
And at a later stage, that enhances safety.
Thanks.
But I just wanted to do justice to this question. See, there is nothing wrong with fixing problems. We have to fix problems. Of course, we have to solve problems. That's what we are paid for as professionals. Uh, but the point is, what is your orientation? What is the starting thing you're going to do? You will more or less come to solving problems if you started with treating people as treating in the first instance. Probably they will even tell you what is there to be fixed and what cannot be fixed. So what we are discussing here is your orientation. If your orientation is only in this physical space to control people, that's all you can hear. That's all you can hear. But if your orientation is more holistic, then you can listen to the full story. Then you can go little, you're not afraid of going a little bit deeper. Then when somebody is feeling traumatic, you're not afraid of having a cup of coffee with them. Just take a break for 5 minutes. And I think that's the point. And then you get so much more better quality. So it's not one against the other. The two can coexist as long as we take a more holistic approach to listening to people. Are we listening to all the? So I'm not suggesting for a minute that we should leave this. I think we should need to listen more holistically. That is my point. And a lot of times when you listen holistically, you probably come back here again, which is to solve the problem. But you do it in a much more humane way, in a much more person-centric way. Then you can reconcile, as we was talking, listening with healing or learning with healing. Yes, it's possible. Yes, we're just running short of time, so I'm quite happy to stay for another 10-15 minutes. I don't have a problem with that. But for those who have to leave, I just wanted to share one last thing with you, which might help you or not. So this is first instance. Everything that we do in social psychology of risk has a meaning. Everything has a meaning. The colors have a meaning. The arrows have a meaning. So if you look at the observer here, the observer is not only listening to the talker and the listener, but he's also listening, paying attention to the space in between the two. And this is very, very, very important. The observer is paying attention to the relationship between the talker and the listener. This is so important for us to understand that this is not about the psychological safety, as some people might call it, of an individual. This is looking at people in relationship with each other, looking at how this person asks a question and how this person then responds to that question. Everything is about relationships. So as a third person, as somebody who's detached from all of this, Your job is to, at the start, is to listen to this relationship. The other thing is, we covered two things in a very, very concise workshop. One is the aspects of listening, and I will send this presentation out to you later on, so you don't need to worry about it. Um, the aspects of listening, things like, tell me about yourself. What would you like to share? Where would you like to begin? Look at the power of these questions. The common theme around all these questions is that we are not approaching people with the view to control them. These are not just open questions, they are actually submitting control to the other person. Who knows when the problem at the site started? Did it start first thing in the morning? Did it start 3 months ago? Did it start 40 years ago when a new technology was introduced? Where would you like to begin? Let the talker decide where he or she wants to start. What is it that they want to tell you? What would you like to share? Maybe this person is getting bullied. It has nothing to do with the physical things. Maybe this person wants to tell us something about his or her relationship with her manager or superior. So what would you like to share? Where would you like to begin? These are all questions that would submit control to the talker. And that's where all good listening starts. But, you know, the thing is that these are just some tools. I can give these tools to you. You can start practicing from today. But until you come to the ethics, which is the right-hand side of it, the ethics of listening, it will not work. Because what will happen is somebody might tell something to you in this space, you will not like it, and you will go back to that red language again. Because your orientation is to control. The orientation of listening is very, very important. To some people, it comes naturally. To others, it takes time. So here is a barcode. I will send it to you. You can point at it and it will take you to the videos with examples of strategy discussions, accident investigation, risk assessment, and so on. You can have a look at it in your own time. So and last but not the least, if there's one thing you want to remember, because our work in social psychology of risk is all visual, is this: that when the vulnerable one is speaking, it is very important that the one in position of power and authority actually picks up the right words. They may be throwing up heaps and heaps of words at you, but if you're not listening, then you will miss the point. And that was just the start of it. This is the first part of 7 or 8 part series in how to build this whiteboard, how to map the whole thing. But I just introduced the first and the most foundational aspect of listening, and then comes the later. But you can find all of that in these videos here, a lot of it in that video. So I will stop sharing now. We do have a few workshops coming up, one in London and one online in December. I will send the details to you. And if you're interested, you're more than welcome to join us, either in London or online. But yeah, I mean, I'm available for the next 10 to 15 minutes. If anyone has a question, I'm happy to take your questions or comments or criticism or whatever you like, please.
You're available for questions. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. What is your field of study? Has it always been social psychology, or was it technical at first?
Kimberly, I have a rather peculiar journey. I started off as a master mariner. I never became a ship captain, but I was a first officer at sea. I had an accident at sea, and I was made to believe I was the cause of the accident, and that changed everything in my world. First, it took me down for about 7 to 8 years, and then I took up a PhD in anthropology. So I'm an anthropologist at heart. I study culture. I studied culture for about 4 years, came out of it, and then I studied a master's in social psychology with Dr. Robert Long in Australia. I'm now studying mythology, theology, consciousness, many other things. So I'm very transdisciplinary by nature. I love studying different disciplines, but the approach is very, very grounded in practical methods and tools. And this is where my passion is, that I think that the big problem is that we don't translate these grand theories into something very, very simple for even for an illiterate person who's not good at writing to follow. And that's where our focus is. Yes.
No, the pictures are
I'm just
great.
about to publish a book on semiotic works. I'm very happy to send it your way if anyone's interested to read. It's a book where we take people to first thing to a church. The second day we take them to a Hindu temple, and the third day we take them to an Apple store to show them the power of religion and culture. And it's all there right in front of us. We just don't see it. Yes,
Amazing. I'd love to see it. Thank you. This
you're
has
very
been
welcome.
great.
Thank you. Likewise, I can see that some of you, I quite thrive when people are engaged. I don't like arguing, Kim. If you argued with me, I'll just leave it there. I'm not good at arguments. No, it's not my area of work. No, but we can have a conversation. Yes.
Nipin, earlier in the session, Bob Latino had asked a question regarding the relationship between the observer and the person who's relating the incident as to whether this is consistent with a therapist-patient relationship.
Oh yeah, fascinating question. I think sometimes, Robert, we have to understand that even therapists don't get it right. Even therapists tend to enter into a conversation with a view to make more money, with a view to control the other person. So I think ethics is an important aspect of it. Having said that, I've seen some very good investigators and even auditors for that matter, experienced auditors, investigators who would start by listening. So it is very individual in many instances. Some recognize it after being in the profession for a long time that you cannot control a factory, a site, a working space through a set of predetermined checklists but some naturally are inclined in that direction. There's a very good book. It's called Please Understand Me. I'm happy to send it to you as a PDF. And this book actually tells us that of different temperament types and how just by listening to the people you can come to understand what is their temperament and try and make a relationship with them. And there's so much you can draw when people trust you. And in our world, sometimes our relationship is very transactional. We just meet people for a day, and that's it. We never meet them again. So this kind of things is so helpful to build trust in the first go.
Interesting, Nipit. And thank you for bringing this session together. And I think there are lots to learn. So if you're planning something in future, definitely put it up there and probably we can join. And the one in London or online, we'll see how best we can connect you.
Sure,
So
more than welcome. And if anyone has a question, please, I think the videos will give you quite a lot to think about. The last chapter of my book, I don't know if you've read it. It actually shows you two different perspectives: the traditional perspective on accident investigations versus the one that I'm speaking about. And I'll make I keep nothing hidden from you. I'm not a big fan of any of these ideas like new view and safety differently and all that. It is a very materialist view of the world still. It does not engage with the human person. So if you come on this journey, what you would realize is that it is very person-centric. And I use the word person-centric because the ethics of everything that we do in this space is actually oriented at the person. It's not about the human, it's about the person. There's two completely different things. So what we are discussing is a very person-centric, people-centric, person-centric approach to living and being. Yes.
I think you're headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Um,
So one last question. As I understand that, yes, accident investigation is not a therapy and it cannot be like a therapy. But I want to understand that what if, how much time do we have for this accident investigation? Well, I have never been a part of it, but I can talk from the therapy side. So how much time do we have to develop the relationship? And if the narrator starts to go into his relationship with the company, with people, with his captain, with his chief engineer, and he starts to go on. So how much time do we have to give to this relationship? Because we cannot have follow-up sessions with this individual. That's what I understand.
So, Bipin, can I chip in here?
Yeah, you can. Of course you can. Of course you
Yeah,
can.
one of the thing what I believe is that there must not be any time constraint put in when you're investigating if you want to actually investigate the right way. You have to
Okay.
give space and time to the individual, especially the individual who has been associated with that event. He or she may not come to the crucial points for the first few sessions at all. Okay, I'll hold here. Nipin, you want to say something?
No, Dhruv, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. I will just map your words. Sorry, I don't think your name is Ankur, but
No,
um,
it is, Ankur.
oh, sorry,
It is.
sorry,
Yeah,
Ankur. Sorry. Yeah. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so your question was, how much time do we have?
Yes, yes, yes. I
Yes.
want to explore that. Yes.
And this is where you are, Ankur.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
You are here. You are in measurement and control.
Hmm. Yeah.
Orientation is measurement and control.
But don't we have to come up with the reports and all those things? Because see, I have, if I have my clients as a psychologist, I have like months and years with them. That's how I look at it. It's a relationship building. So in accident investigation, don't we have to come up with the reports and everything?
Ankur, what if I said it's 4 o'clock and I have to leave now? My time is over. I deserve to be paid for another 15 minutes. How would that feel?
Yeah, of course. No. Not so good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
Hmm.
is my point. People are
Hmm.
traumatized, Ankur. People are traumatized by.
Yeah.
It took me 8 years to come out of it, and you know how? Because somebody put their trust in me and said, "Yeah, I think this person can do a PhD in anthropology, a fully funded PhD. I don't know what she saw in me, but she did give me this
Hmm.
opportunity." And my point is
Hmm.
that we all are better off in relationship and trust. Um,
Hmm.
if that's not our first orientation, then we have already lost the person. So,
Correct.
of course, we have a duty. I do not dismiss your question at all, but I think maybe we should rethink that question. How much time do we have? And my answer is as long as it takes,
Hmm.
as long as it takes.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I'd rather not make it worse for them.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay.
And
Yep.
the reason why I wrote that thing here was that I made the unconscious conscious. Yeah, I made your
Yeah.
language conscious, because if we
Hmm.
are talking in this space alone and as a start, then we need to think about our investigation
Hmm.
strategy.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with this, but you have to balance it with this.
Hmm.
What questions can we ask in this space?
Hmm.
And then we come here.
Okay. Okay. That's a good lead. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Please, I have a comment to say. Can I go ahead?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's your question, Julius?
Not actually a question. It's just a comment.
Please.
Yes, I've been involved in accident investigation, and my take home with this class is as an investigator or accident investigator, you must it's a job that needs more empathy. It's a job that actually requires empathy too, because the person you are investigating should always remember that he must feel safe that you are coming to investigate him. He must feel safe because the truth is he owns You are a professional, but he has the facts, the information required you need. He owns the information. And if he's not safe, you can't get information from him. So you must feel safe, this psychological safety, you must within a short period of time in your conversation. So the first thing you say, the first 5 minutes you are going to have with him, person must feel safe. That is when you can actually get the truth, the fact from him. Because most time you are not there when the incident or accident happens. And most time investigation comes when there's most likely there's a big problem, sometimes a casualty. So when the person have information and is always on a defensive mode. I remember when there was a such issue when I was on board. Most time they're always on a defensive mode. So for them to pour out the truth, which you actually what you are paid for, the person must actually feel safe. Kudos to you with this breakout section. Mark, Sir Mark was the one that gave us the story. I could remember he was telling us about an incident. I will call it a natural accident that do occur concurrently in his country, talking about wildfire. But the listener was a very good active listener. He allowed him to express himself for a good period of time before he asked him a question. And his question was, what do you think we can do? That is the way forward. The way forward gives Mr. Mark the mindset to pour out more. Oh, I wish you should do this. I wish the government should have done this. I wish the government had done this. From my own observation, Mr. Mark has gone to probably he has felt pained with what has happened. Probably it happens to his family or a close relation, and the government is not actually doing something. So the listener was able to listen more before asking questions, making Mr. Mark to pour out more. So thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. It reminds me of when an accident occurred while I was at work. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome, sir. One of the areas where you might want to think about applying long before accident investigations is talking to children, talking to your own children. If you have children, speak to them, try and understand them. We've had cases where my boy was bullied in the school some time ago, and every day he would come home and say, "Mom, well, you ask the question, how are you?" and say, "Yeah, good." And then the next thing you say, "You're not looking good." "Yeah, I had a problem with a boy in the school." And you know what the mom would say? "Let me talk to the teacher tomorrow." She wouldn't ask, "Tell me a little bit more." She'd say, "Let me talk to the teacher tomorrow." And it doesn't go away. It just doesn't go away. He stopped talking. And this went on for about a year under our nose. So, going back to it, and try and have a conversation without controlling a child, without solving their problems. And you see how much more you can draw, how much more they will speak to you. And whosoever comes on this journey, the first thing they experience is a change in their personal relationships. And I think that's a really good place to begin, because if you can see it in your very, very personal space, then you are much more confident to apply it at work and elsewhere. The trouble is that most people want to go and experiment it with their colleagues and try to extract more information from there, and you lose it there completely. So the ethics have to be there. Yes, Robert, please.
Sorry, I know we are short of time, but I had a realization as I was listening to Julius say what he just said about you have to be an empathetic listener to be able to create that safe space. The realization that I had was, in being that empathetic listener, when you're actually allowing the other person to be vulnerable, and you are accepting that it's okay for you to see the expression of vulnerability in the other. The realization that I had was that in the listening, I as a listener might come across realizations of my own biases that I had not recognized until that moment, until that deep sharing was happening, which would actually bring to the surface the realization that I am holding these biases within me, and that's something that could affect the outcome of the investigation as we go along if I, as a listener, am not going to be honest about it and accept that this is there. What do you think about that? Because I think this is something that can happen to me.
It happens to everyone. I'm just listening to your words. Do you have any idea how many times you use the word realization? You had a moment of epiphany. I had one this morning talking to you, but now you had one.
Exactly.
Yes.
Julius's words just brought that to the surface.
Yeah. It happens all the time. Yes. See, all learning is making the unconscious conscious. It's bringing it up. It's all bringing it up. So, and the funny part, the interesting thing is, I don't even have to say anything. It will come from you. But the thing is that this urge to control, to solve the problem, is not letting me listen to you. As you're speaking, I'm already starting to make my mind about what to say next, how to solve that next problem, and so on. So I'm not listening. I'm just trying to react and control and solve all your problems. And anyone who has brought up a teenage child would know you cannot solve any problems in the world. You just cannot. You just can't. Yeah, and so we are so naive. But all good things come to an end. But I have to go. Sorry now. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. Some of you have stayed much longer. I value it. I appreciate it. And let's continue the conversation on LinkedIn or wherever you like. Or you can send me an email. I will send you a couple of books before we leave. One is Please Understand Me. I will also send you another book, which I would highly recommend all of you to read. I started my journey there in language, which is called Metaphors We Live by George Lakoff. Wonderful, wonderful book to read. Everyone should read that book. Very, very good book. I will send that out to you, both PDF books and a PDF copy of this presentation. And you can scan the code and get to the videos, or I will send you the link to the videos as well. I think that should sum it up then. And until we meet again, we'll probably catch up again. But very nice to see you all. I see one screen, there are 3 people there. A third one I never saw in the first instance. That's great. That's great. Great.
Thank you, Nipun. Thank you. God bless.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Yes.
you very much.
Send us the book. Then, secondly, if possible, we can link up together.
I will do that. Yes. All right, Julius. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nipin.
You're welcome. You're welcome.